Okay, I got one of my favorite content creators here, hands down, bar none. I got the tech version, not the B1 version, because B1 version show up is lights out, place getting burned down. To we so
Everybody getting it.
I got see over the technician in the house, sir. How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm chilling. I'm surviving, man. You know, we're doing what we can do in New York.
Real quick, I want to ask you, the politics of New York, the economy of New York. Do you pay attention to it when people make videos about how bad New York is and the people leaving and does that even bother? Do you even see any of that at all around you?
Um, I pay attention to the politics, but it's kind of like not much you can do about it because New York City runs the New York State, and
Okay.
majority of New York City's Democrats. So I mean, even with the last election, a lot of the boroughs were moved right significantly. But
Mhm.
overall, majority of New York City's Democratic. As far as the people leaving, I mean, it doesn't really. The only thing that really it's really affecting is like people on individual stances. Like you make money off of people, but the whole people leaving New York to go to other states on the overwide perspective, it affects New York because New York is going to start losing electoral votes.
Okay.
With the next constituents come up, New York is going to lose electoral votes, which would widen the gap between Democrats and Republicans winning national elections. So if you take 8 from New York, another 4 from California,
Mhm.
then another 5 from like what's another state that Democrats win, Virginia, then you're almost counting about 10 between 10 and 20 electoral votes that are just physically off the table for Democrats permanently because they're coming from the main states that they're always destined to win. So it affects, New York on a wider scale, but on an individual scale, not I can't tell not so much, to be honest with you. Like the things that really are problematic in New York is like the crime, the immigration. Recently we had a huge story of this guy who had an ankle monitor and he nearly beat this woman half to death. She's on a trail in broad daylight, and she's in the hospital fighting for her life now. The simple things like the people that are constantly arrested but constantly re-released,
Mhm.
and the most Democrat, liberal, progressive option is to vote for someone that's even more liberal, more progressive. So now, with our mayoral race, I'm an independent, so I don't really get a lot of mailings in my name addressed to me because I'm an independent, so they don't care about independent voters unless it
Okay.
comes to general election, and then you don't get told anything. That's just how New York works in the closed off election system. But we have City Boy, Mayor Adams. We got Andrew. Do you want to eat my sausage, Cuomo? And then you got Zoran, which is just a typical California progressive super liberal. Wants to freeze the rent, which would probably be good, but then wants to do socialist things like city-owned grocery stores and things like that. And you
Wow.
know, it sounds good, but then when you research like how it actually transpires and what the results is of that stuff, it doesn't really sound that good. But the liberals, they're liberal progressive, and then when they get bashed in the fucking head with an axe, then they want to know how we got here. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well, so nothing you're seeing in the future is going to make you contemplate leaving.
Um, I mean, I'll leave when it comes time to leave. Like when I'm ready to leave. Like I like the city.
Mhm.
So I'm not a countryside person. That's just kind of my, personality. I tried, I spent some time in Virginia. It wasn't my cup of tea. I
Okay.
kind of like the city, so you know, that's just me, my living. What I like to do. I like lights and things. So there's
Right.
not a
Right.
lot of that in the countryside. In the South. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean? So
You
that's
like the comforts. Yeah. You like amenities. I get it.
Yeah, like I like, when I went to Virginia, I was like, oh, let me go to the corner store, and it's like some damn store you see in them horror movies with the
Oh, that's
poultry
funny.
and stuff. I'm like, man, can I get a sandwich? And they don't make sandwiches and shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You gotta, it's a different. way to live, and I'm not really accustomed to that, you know. But,
Well, maybe North Carolina might be more New Yorkish in, you know, because
yeah, you
North
know,
Carolina.
I'm a city boy. I can't, you know, I can't. I'm not. I'm gonna. I can't, you know, fight that. I'm a city boy, so you know,
That's okay.
and
Ain't no
that's
shame in
okay.
that. Right. I see a lot of people trying to shame city folk. Like, you want to stay in a city? Why don't you? Like, what? I like
Like I don't
convenience.
want to
Like,
go move, you know, I don't want to go move to freaking Thailand and you know, in the Philippines, you know, it's humid every day. Like I don't no chopped cheese, no
no
chicken
Chauncey.
cutlet. Yeah, man, what you talking about? What you mean?
Okay, I got you here because when it comes to content creation, the terms and agreements, the legalities of it, I go to you more than anybody else.
Yes.
And a couple weeks ago, we had the snafu, the pop the balloon, went ham on everybody, as I felt that they should, striking everybody for the content. Because, you know, if I sign with a conglomerate like Netflix, I want all the money. So, what was your takeaway from that?
Um First, let me pull up because I want to add some understanding to that. Let me pull up the actual, what is this guy's name? I didn't forgot the guy's name. Media
Tutorial,
tutorial
yeah,
review.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
I
got
didn't
it.
forgot the dude's name. That's great. Okay, tutorials reviews.
Mediocre tutorials and
Mediocre.
reviews.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me pull his channel because there's something important I want to point out about that. Okay, and he deleted the post.
Mm,
Huh.
interesting.
Oh, you know who I got to go to see it? Pop the balloon, because I want to pull up, because to understand this thing with Pop the Balloon, you have to understand the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the company that they've do business with is called Future Limited. It's a partner company, right? So it's not necessarily Arlet that is doing the striking. It's the partnered company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Future is let me share my screen. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So
Wait,
Future.
hold up. It okay. See, every time I do solo with the screen share, then the volume gets mad crazy with it, which I don't understand. I don't know why Ecamm is always like that. So let me shoot. Let me see. Let me see. That's three. Hold up. All right, say something real quick.
Test.
Damn. Shit's doing it again.
Okay. So it's the operation.
Okay, hold up. It. I don't know. It's weird.
No, I can
Like
share it on my OBS. So stop. You can stop the screen share. We'll do it like that.
Okay. Who the
Yeah.
fuck is this? Wait a minute. I messed up. I got three. I got somebody in the middle that I don't even know what the fuck I just did. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. Let me figure this out. No, go ahead though.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll just add the Future on my end, and you should be able to see. Let's see. The video capture device. Okay, so yeah, that's not working. Okay, never mind. So I'll just read. Yeah, that's no problem. We'll just scratch it. I'll just read it off, and you can just go back. Uh-oh. So anyway, Future is a content creator service support, right? So pretty much what they do is they handle channel funding where they get access to quick upfront capital and flexible deal structures to kickstart your next venture. They handle content ID. They identify, discover, and monetize unauthorized copies of your content online through our dedicated copyright management team, returning lost revenue back to your channel. And they work with creator pay which receive your YouTube AdSense in 5 working days through our secure payment processing systems. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you want to look a little bit more into their content ID, they search and identify, they use IP protection, passive income, and reliable reports. So, what all of that means is simply this: the people who are really in charge of handling the content ID, that is not Arnett, that is not Pop the Balloon, that is this company that they have partnered with, right?
Mhm.
So, they search dedicated copyright management team will identify copied content on YouTube and ensure that each video is properly claimed, which is what happens when you see massive consecutive claims. That's not a person doing that normally. That's a team or software that is handling those massive claims in consecutive fashion.
Okay.
Our team will personally review each piece of content flagged by Content ID and file a claim to take down or redirect revenue from copied content back to the original owner. And passive income. This quick and simple process requires no action from you, allowing you to enjoy monthly recurring revenue, which could potentially boost your overall earnings. And then reliable reports. Our dedicated team of YouTube experts will deliver the high level support you need, along with regular performance reports to track your success. So Arnett signed with a company that most YouTubers end up having problems with that handles their payments. Famously, you covered a creator who did car content, and they signed with, I forgot the name of what they're called. I
Was it
forgot the
Donut?
name.
I know what you're talking about. It's
No,
either
it was the
Donut.
Asian dude. It was the Asian dude.
Damn, I'd be forgetting.
And I forgot what they call these companies because I haven't researched this topic anymore. But
Yeah.
they sign with a company like this. This is what this company is doing, right? So it's not necessarily Arlette that is doing this. It's the company that she's having manage all of this, handling it. Now, again, if it wasn't a problem, Arlette wouldn't be working with this company. But they feel it's a problem with people using their content, sharing their content out. I mean, I forgot what your initial question was.
No, that was it. I mean, basically,
Okay.
so I'm in agreement. Like if I got a management partner that and we're signed to
manage, something like a managing partner. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little 50-50 on it because I don't entirely agree with using a partner to kind of silence people. Oh, Kova, you got to speak in layman, brothers. Your brain is too advanced for us mere humans, bro. Sly, hit me with the what, because I don't understand. Oh, shit.
Shout out to Fatal J. Okay, so we just say me and you, we get offers from a management team. Remember, this is the same issues a couple YouTubers went through years ago. Tasha K went through this, Lovely T went through this, and the management company is like a 360 deal. Like, hey, okay, now you kind of, even though we work for you, you're gonna work for us. You're gonna do all this stuff. We're gonna get our hands in everything. You gotta create so much content per weekly, per monthly basis. So you had all these horror stories of management companies basically bending the content creators over the barrel. So they kind of got away from that. It seems here Pop the Balloon said, well, maybe they've learned their lesson and not to ride us so hard. And I guess what they're going to do now is punish everybody instead of punishing the content creator for making up the content and getting all the monies per. That's what it sounds like now, this wave of going back to management companies. So what I wanted to ask you, I guess the second part of the question was, if we sign to a management company and they say, hey, you guys are missing 50 grand a month out here with all these people just using your content, you're not even punishing them, we need to get that money, because they get a cut of that. So you're 50-50 on that.
Yeah, because I look at it from this perspective of marketing, right? Because I've never watched Pop the Balloon, nor have I really ever heard of Pop Balloon until people reacted to the content.
Okay.
So that's reach, right? So that means that your content isn't reaching me because I'm not anywhere near your algorithm, but your content indirectly has reached me based on people reacting to your content, right? So
Mhm.
that now I'm inclined to watch your channel because I see people reacting to your content. So if I want to get the long term overall, viewing experience from your content, now I'll go find your content and now I'm watching your content, right? Same thing with Kendra G, right? Kendra
Mhm.
G hates people that react to her content, but she doesn't understand that people reacting to your content is bringing you viewers because of people reacting to your content and talking about your content is how I know who you are, that you exist. Because if it wasn't for the people mentioning or sharing or talking about your content, I wouldn't know who you are because your content just doesn't reach me. So
Okay.
that's why I'm 50-50 on it.
Okay. I'm with you up until a certain point, because now it's like, okay, now I'm leaving money on the table. So what's a fair, so
I
it's
mean, you would have to then again make a business decision, right?
okay.
To where you're at a point where that broad reach is no longer important, or you're scaling up. So scaling up for Pop the Balloon would be partnering with Netflix,
Okay.
right? And have a spin-off show. Now, I don't entirely believe that Netflix shows directly link with Arnett unless she publicly has said that, because the Netflix show is entirely different. Different kind of audience, different kind of class of people that are on the show. The Netflix show appears to be trying to reach a broader mainstream audience than what Arnett does on her Pop the Balloon show.
So what I read in response to that is they're connected, but they've allowed Netflix to do different versions of it to kind of expand the reach per se. So you may have the Pop the Balloon featuring midgets. You may have Pop the Balloon featuring people only 6 feet tall. But so they're just cutting through all types of demographics. With their That's why when that first episode aired on Netflix, people were like, well, this ain't what I remember. Yeah, exactly. So they're cookie cutter, all different types, but they're tied to it. That deal was signed last March, I believe. Now the management place, is the go between Netflix and them, and like, hey, we got to get this money, or is it entitlement on those the reaction channels to not expect them to be like, okay, you know you're using my content, right? You do know that revenue should be going to me, right? Because you're using my content. So what's a fair argument to that?
Well, let's say like a lot of content creators don't understand a lot of wide issues when it comes to YouTube and content creation, because they only know what they know and what they're doing at the current point in time. Like a person like me, like I understand a lot of other things about, things dealing with YouTube that a lot of creators that even have more thousand subscribers more than me don't really understand or
Okay,
know about, right?
right.
So if you're a guy that's starting out and you're just doing kind of the regular reviews in a webcam and reviewing Pop the Balloon, you may not even know that she can claim your content for that, right? You may not even know. Your views and reach with that content may not even be to a point where it's substantially enough to even bother trying to claim it because
Okay.
it's not really monetized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a shock to a lot of people that she can claim that company can claim the content on her behalf. A lot of people who react to that content didn't even probably weren't even aware of the deal with the management company and what that management company is capable of doing on their behalf when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
claiming the content, right? Which is why
Mm-hmm.
Media to Talk Reviews seems so taken aback, because like a guy like that doesn't understand that when you see that succession of claims on the content, that's coming from an AI, that's coming from software, that's coming from a program. That's not a person doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A person would be something more specific, right? Like monthly, boom, 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 boom. Bi-monthly, boom, 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 boom. Or
Right.
quarterly, boom, 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 boom. Right? You knock the channel down quarterly. Like, and that's how YouTube works. YouTube works with certain niches in a quarterly manner. Like every quarter, you just got people just start getting hit, bang, 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 in succession, going into the next quarter. That's just what they do, right? People won't tell you or explain that. they'll make it seem like that's not something that actually happens, but that's what happened.
So we know there's different types of copyright claims. It's one actual, where you actually get the strike, and YouTube tells you, hey, this is what you did. Why I got a strike? You can't do this, can't do that for the next 30 days while the strike falls off. Or it's just a claim for revenue sharing. What it seems like everyone got hit with claims for revenue sharing, and everybody kind of flipped out. And I'm like, okay, they're allowing you to use the content, but you just can't make money off of it. So, and I'm from what I've seen from Mediocre, I'm like, okay, that's what it sounds like you got hit with for revenue sharing. So, why are you surprised, for one, and why is it a big deal to you? Would you not expect that? It's like the music. You can't use Universal, Sony, Warner Brother music and not expect to get hit. So why would you expect this to be any different with Pop the Balloon?
I can't explain that mindset because it's kind of selfish, kind of a self-serving, kind of, or purposely oblivious.
Okay.
To say, like, being surprised that you're using someone's content and they say you can't make money of it. Like, oh, what do you mean? We're sharing, your content is getting out, reaching to other people, but you're also kind of taking money out of their pocket because you're bandwagoning them, right?
Right.
Like, if I were to go to this guy's channel, right? Let me see if I go to his channel. I'll go back. Okay, so a guy like this, and I see that he kind of recently removed a lot of these videos, but before that, almost a good, like, maybe 50% of his content was probably, well, actually, let's look at him at a broader perspective, right? We'll say that about 80 to 90% of his content is reacting, right? So we're moving off of just talking about Pop the Balloon. We're just talking about reacting in general, right? So when about 80 to 90% of your content is reacting and not you just making original content, you run the risk of this happening a lot to you, depending on the creators that you're consistently reacting to, especially if you consistently react to one kind of creator, right? Like, if, like, I see a bunch of various people, like, if you're just reacting to content creators and one content creator in specific, then yeah, you run the risk of getting your channel hit in that manner, right? Even, like, go to one of the biggest reaction channels on YouTube. You talk about Osmogold, right?
Yeah.
Osmogold is probably like one of the most hated YouTubers because of his reacting content. Yeah. Because he pretty much doesn't upload any original content at all whatsoever. And his reactions to his reactions will always get the most views over another person's reaction. Yeah. Right? So he literally just doesn't make content. He just watches, records, and uploads and makes money, right? So that's kind of why reacting content is, like, really hated. And a lot of channels are really kind of becoming just simply reaction channels. They just react to other people's content. The most hated pieces of content, me personally, are reaction channels that are reacting to a reaction of a video.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't. That's just next level scum. I just can't do it. I'm not able to do that, right? So this is pretty much talking about the lack of originality, the lack of creativity on a content creator perspective, right? So a lot of times when this particular thing happens, they talk about fair use, right? And the problem with and the problem with fair use is that fair use operates on a sliding scale on YouTube, right? It depends, right? So say I've personally witnessed fair use being abused, right? So one creator was named two tech creators. One was named Alter Tech, other one was called Jay Williams. And I've talked about this a bunch of time on your channel, right? Jay Williams did a video talking about a phone. I think it was like a Pixel or something like that. And Alter Tech reacted to his Pixel content, right? He said, here's why I agree, here's why I disagree. So Jay Williams, like typical old niggas would do, he kind of did the Kevin Samuels routine. So he wants to actually copyright strike the guy's channel. Yep. Now he's telling the guy that he has to call him by a certain time, or his channel's gonna get struck down again, and his content's he's gonna get his channel deleted. again, people in the tech behind the scenes are trying to talk to people, and I'm kind of watching this. I'm like, wow, you're abusing the fair use copyright claim system, because obviously the guy is just reacting to your commentary. And if the guy's not calling you out of your name, he's not defaming your character, what is with the hostility of critiquing your opinion, right? And that's on a smaller creative perspective of, trying to claim people, right? Matter of fact, we'll say no, but we'll say Reg, like say Reg, right? Reg's a bad guy, right? Reg thing is, don't play my stuff, right? Most of the time when people would play a Reg video, they're like, responding to him, right?
Yeah.
But is it don't play my video, right? So then Reg will go and try to claim the video or strike the video, right? I don't know if it actually happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? And that's on a smaller creative perspective, right?
Right.
That's how some people would abuse the system. Now on a larger scale, right? So Media Tutorial Reviews, he highlighted one example, right? So he highlighted the Hosendé and Klein with H3H Productions, right? This is like from 2017, right?
I remember.
So
that.
at Ethan and Gila Klein of H3H3 Productions, where they sued a fellow YouTuber, Matt Hosef, for using clips of his video in their critique. The court ruled in favor of the Klein, stating their use was transformative and constituted fair use, setting a significant precedent for commentary and reaction videos on YouTube, which was nice in 2017, which is today is irrelevant. Right? Clearly irrelevant because of how, and they've also have done the same thing they went to court for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the most principal issue that people have when fair use comes to commentary, right? Transformative content. Clip it here, add some videos, add some images, add some music, stop, pause, whatever you do to transform the original piece, right?
Right.
Now, coming back to sort of like layman's terms, right? We'll talk about Kendra G, right? So Kendra G famously has says that she doesn't like people reacting to her content, right? She gets all, ghetto about it and things like that. And she says YouTube has a thing called fair use. And that's crazy because people with a big platform don't even understand what fair use is on YouTube, right? That goes back to what I was earlier talking about, is that a lot of creators don't understand a lot of the inner workings of the policies and how things operate on the platform. So, a subscriber count doesn't mean you understand everything. I'll just say it like that, right?
Right.
So Kendra G is unable to properly claim these pieces of content on her own because a lot of people's reactions to varying extents, fall under fair use, right? Because they're reacting, they're playing clips. Now, some people may not, be protected under fair use. So say for an example, like say my screen is my video talking about the Kendra G, and your screen, that's what the people are seeing on YouTube, is a Kendra G video. And I'm just playing the video and then talking. And I'm playing the video and then talking some more. There is nothing transformative about that piece of content. Because literally all you... Go ahead.
So most people would think that's enough. The pause, stop, comment.
Yes, that's the problem, right?
Okay.
So one of the big problems I have when people put up that bullshit legal note, right? That means nothing, right? The copyright claim law that people would put on their thumbnails.
Yeah.
And then screaming fair... See... We talked about this a few years ago. See, I know what kind of content you watch when you start screaming fair use in the video. I know what you watch. And fair use. Screaming fair use does not mean fair use. Okay? That's not what it means. That's not what it means. Stop it. It doesn't mean that. Okay? It's very bad. Doesn't mean that. Okay? It doesn't mean that. Screaming fair use does not mean fair use. Fair use is in the act of creating the content, changing the content from its original work. If you're not doing that, if you're just saying, yeah, I don't like, these women, like, that's not fair use. That's just you playing the content and you talking over it, right?
Okay.
So another issue of fair use, and what I want to do is I actually want to find something more recent, right? So let's see. This one's from 2015. Stephanie Lentz versus Universal. Stephanie Lentz posted a 29-second video of a child dancing to Prince Let's Go Crazy, Universal Music issued a takedown, but the court held that the copyright holders must consider fair use before issuing DMCA takedown notices. Therefore, protections for incidental use of copyrighted material, right? So that's a big boy legal case, right? With Universal, right? Universal's pretty heavy with it. Yeah, they'll smash you down in an instant.
In seconds, yes. Yeah.
The problem with this stuff is this is going to court. Most people don't have the time nor the money to go to court over things like this. You don't have the time nor the money to do that.
Well, let me ask you. I'm gonna play Kendra G devil's advocate. If she signed with the management company, would she be able to do what Pop the Balloon has done and just hit everybody?
Yeah, she probably would.
So is that her only recourse of action at this point, or content creators like her at her level, where her content is constantly being used all over the place?
Yeah, she would, but she wouldn't probably do it because she kind of got this kind of independent ego, which is self-defeating. So she wouldn't do that. But she would benefit greatly from aligning with a company like this to handle her copyright claim ID.
Right.
Yeah, she would benefit greatly from it.
Okay.
Even probably the same, pretty much the same as Arlette with Pop the Balloon would. Yeah.
So it sounds like that's a natural progression. Like you would have to at some point.
It depends on your content.
Okay.
Like, MKBHD doesn't need to sign with a company like that. Jay's 2 Cents, Paul's Hardware, Osmogold doesn't need to sign with a company like that. Like, it depends on your content and how often your content is being reacted to. Like, some people's content just aren't content that's going to be reacted to like that. So there's no real need to sign up for something like that, like a Critical Drinker. Like, no one really reacts to his content like that. So it wouldn't that aspect of claiming wouldn't benefit him.
But if you have the content that is constantly being recycled, it's best to go ahead and say, you know what? Let me put this into this. Let me go ahead and sign up with somebody that can go ahead and get this rectified, because I can only imagine how many tens of thousands of dollars she's missing out on with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And deal with the reach when it comes to your content not reaching other audiences outside of them watching your channel. You'll just have to deal with that and scale up, however which way you scale up. But it's cost-based analysis kind of situation. Like, would you would rather have the money from the views than the views without the money.
Right. Let me ask you, are we in the midst of content creator fatigue?
Explain.
I figured you would. Is it like is YouTube content creation going through the same issues that, let's say, Marvel, DC, comic book movies going through?
So content creator fatigue. So you talking about fatigue of certain types of content?
Yes, and have the content creators themselves become lazy?
So let's break down the first part, right? So superhero fatigue is not so the issue is it's not that people are tired of superhero movies, they're tired of bad superhero movies.
Okay.
Like, it's getting kind of like, oh God, all right, all right.
Okay.
Like, it's bad superhero movies, right? That's why people loved Deadpool, because it was a different superhero movie, even though the plot was kind of wonky. Ryan Reynolds was Ryan Reynoldsing a little bit too much. But people, it's too much. But people liked the movie because it was different, right? And then when people come back to the regular Marvel movies, this was like, oh God, more of this shit, right? So that's kind of what's happening with Fantastic Four. We were talking about before we went live, and Pedro Pascal is doing a Rachel Zegler thing, crashing out over politics.
Man, right.
There's something I want to point out to you that you've talked about, right? Saying because Disney doesn't care because the message. Yeah, the message is going to be the message, but the message got to come with some winning, right? So right now, from where we stand, Marvel is placing about maybe $2 to $4 billion on the backs of this Fantastic Four movie, because this is going to carry the next 5 Marvel movies, right? And they're already doing reshoots for Fantastic Four, because the test screenings, where have we heard this from? because of Captain America. Where else have we heard this from? The Thunderbolts. The test screenings were horrible.
Yeah.
So now they're doing reshoots. So, and they've already pushed back Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Yep.
And they're saying between Doomsday and Secret Wars, they're going to split the movies. So it's going to be 3 movies instead of 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to split the money instead of attaching more money to a new project. They're going to split the money between the 3 projects. Everything is looking bad for them right now. It's looking pretty bad, right? It doesn't look good. I'll just be honest with you. It doesn't look good. Like, if they can somehow get to the end of Secret Wars and blow everything up and reset everything, the quicker they can get to that is the quicker they can reset and figure something out. Because so the message is costing them money, right? So people aren't tired of action movies, right? You know, action movie comes out, people go watch it. That doesn't mean every action movie makes $1 billion, but it makes money. People go watch it. People still go to the movies to see comedies, even though sometimes the comedies are raunchy or stupid. You know, people go see them. Like, say for Netflix, right? Netflix puts something out, people go ape shit, goes top 10 on Netflix charts, right? Top 10 in Nielsen ratings, right? People still like a lot of the content that Netflix put out. Now, there are things that Netflix put out that people hate, and there's things that people like, right? Same thing with Disney Plus. You know, everything about Disney Plus people hate. We're not going to use them as an example. But, you know, there's movies on the streaming services that come out that people like and then people don't like. So I can't say it's a fatigue. It's just they're just tired of bad movies from a specific genre. Like Sinners, right? Sinners it ended up being a good movie, ended up making decent money, pretty good money from where it started, and it's a horror movie, horror thriller, a little bit of action, and people loved it, right? People showed up to watch like Smile. I didn't like Smile. I thought it was shit, but people liked it anyway. People go see horror movies, Hereditary, you know, probably a lot of people is going to go back to see the reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer. You know, people are going to go see those movies regardless because they're good movies and they like them and they know their audience, you know, and they like what they see. Now, as far as the and science fiction as well too. Science fiction is always a good to go to movie for people to go see, right? Now, as far as that creative fatigue, it depends on the type of creator and the type of content you're watching, right? Because tech creators, a lot of tech content consumers, they kind of got a little tired of the phones because the market when it comes to phone technology is kind of bland at this point. Is, you know, this is, you know, I haven't done this in a while. So this is the S24 Ultra, right? This looks just like the S25, and it's probably going to look just like the S26.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So at this point, people are getting a little tired of the phone content, right? Now, as far as when it comes to PC content, are we good over here? We right as rain. Computex was fucking fire. Computex, they got people with the AIOs all in one liquid. I'm not gonna tech y'all to death, but they got the liquid. You already saw I was about to get started, but they got the liquid coolers with the curved screen that can rotate. They got more liquid coolers with the LCD screens. They got cases with the LCD screens built in on the side and on the top. They got the case fans with the LCD screens that could display different type of technology. They got different types of cooling technology come out. They got more air coolers, water coolers, fans. They got case, keyboards, motherboard. They got all kind of cool shit at Computex, right? So there's not bored with that. You get a nerd. You get a. I saw Dr. Doug said nerd. Let him nerd cook. You know, you get annoyed with Nvidia and them chasing down people telling them to review their product a certain way. You get annoyed with AMD rescuing defeat from the jaws of victory. But, you know, overall, like when it comes to computer tech, like it's lit over here. Like they got all kind of shit going on over here, right?
Okay.
So it depends on the content and the genre of content or the niche of content that you watch, where you can determine where the fatigue is coming from.
Do you see areas of fatigue in certain spaces with the content?
Yeah, so I just mentioned, phone reviews is kind of boring. Like it's whatever. You know, sneaker content not so much because, you know, them fucking drones gonna get hyped when they re-release the
For sure.
19,000 version of whatever Jordan they done drop, right? I guess your question was more centered towards like black YouTube. I would oppose.
We can go down the street.
Yeah, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. Okay, sure, no problem. I'll take the alley oop, no problem. But so we look at like black urban content, right? Like, you break it down into politics. That's kind of died down because that's not making enough money anymore because Trump won. So now you got to actually understand the topic that you're talking about. It just can't be, LMAO, red pill men for the win, right? So, you got like manosphere content. It's kind of iffy right now. It's kind of transitioning more into like debate content, right? So, like a popular guy, Andrew Wilson, and his long-winded theoretical, logical debates with feminists and OnlyFans creator on a whatever podcast. That's a high point right there with the manosphere content, right? You talking about people, pretty much the black YouTube content kind of trend. It's kind of transitioned around, centering around reacting pretty much to Pop the Balloon and Kendra G for the large part, right? And then on the smaller scale, it's people responding and reacting to or talking about the typical same issues with women. You have one creator who will randomly just talk about whatever happens with a black female in whatever aspect of entertainment, social topics, or politics. And you just have another person who just talks random shit, right? And that's kind of, where that's at, right? So, if you're looking at it from that perspective, yeah, there's a lot of content and content creators that people are just like, okay, I don't care anymore, right? Like for me, personally, like I don't really watch. Like when you were talking about, you and Sexy Red were talking about Edward, right? Yeah, I didn't figure out, who you were talking until you said his name, and then Red was talking about it. Because I don't watch the guy. I have no idea. Right?
You should. No, you shouldn't.
Right? So I don't watch him. So when, Red was talking about it, right? And she was like, your boy. I'm like, I don't watch this. Like, I don't watch the dude at all, right? So I don't know nothing about what goes on, what he gets into, what happens with him. Like, I don't know. And for the most part, I really don't care. It's not interesting to me, right? So I guess it would depend on like what you like watching. Like some people just like the shit, right? Some people just like it. People just do their thing and they just like tuning in and just listening to it, right? So that's a personal case by case thing. I can't really point it to an overarching sort of systemic problem with a certain niche. It just depends.
Do you see the market or the content consumers asking for an uptick in the quality of content per se? And
I mean, we passed that. We passed that. That ain't happening. We passed that. We passed that. Okay, we passed that.
You know what I hate the most is when people send me videos of the person this and while the video is playing in this, and I'm like,
hold on. What do you mean? Break that down again?
I hate when people send me content to look at, and the person they send me the content, the person's in the corner, and I'm like, so this is what I get so frustrated.
That's a clickable thumbnail. So are you talking about the content, or are you talking about the thumbnail?
The content itself, like,
give me an example. Who are you talking about?
Anybody. I'm such a content snob now. Like I look at people different or funny if they watch content with the person in the corner just doing this while the video is playing. So why are you watching this person?
Oh yeah. I've seen content like that. Yeah.
I look at people that consume that type of content like, I think you're slow. I look at them as slow. Why would you do this? Why? Why can't you just find the original video for yourself? And I don't need to see this. Like,
that's TikTok.
It's the word.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's on TikTok. Yeah, I don't really watch TikTok like that. I mean, unless I get a certain thing I want to watch, like, I see a girl, let me see what her TikTok talking about. Let me see what she's talking about. If I'm on a girl's TikTok, I'm like, let me see what that Instagram talking about. Just get a good goon sesh going, you know what I mean? But The whole creators, consumers asking their creator to do more. I mean, we passed that, right? Like, if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it, right? It is what it is at this point. People can ask for a lot of things. That don't mean they're going to get it, even if they watch the person's content and they still show up, right? You know what I mean? Like, people come into a guy and say, hey, can you upgrade your mic? Guy don't upgrade the mic, right? Can you get a green screen? Still don't got no green screen. Can you fix your lights? Still don't fix the lights. Can you speak up? Still ain't speaking up. Can you edit the content? Still ain't editing the content. Can you maybe give us some short form videos? Don't give you the short form videos. Right? You know what I mean? Like, it depends on the consumer. Like, you still watching?
Okay, there you go.
People that line up for a nigga that go live and hit y'all with this. Yeah, man. Let me tell y'all about what's going on today, man. This is the problem with y'all, man. Y'all don't understand the way society's going, and they just be lined the fuck up for that. You know what I mean? They just be in there with the fire emojis. It's lit for them. You know what I mean? Like, they like that shit.
It's funny. We're like maybe 2 years removed from people still like holding the phone up to the camera as a screen share. Like, we're just 2 years from that. Like, some people kind of like watching it just now got into the screen share with the StreamYard. I'm just like, so you're no longer holding the phone up to the camera.
And remember, like, when I first started talking to a lot of people on YouTube, I was telling people about the the green screen and the screen sharing and stuff like that. That's old news. That's like 5 years ago at this point. You know what I mean? But people, they tune in for what they tune in for. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. They still there watching. So some people say.
So there's no real incentive for the content creator to upgrade per se or change.
No, like, why? Like, why do you need people to push you to be better if you don't want to be better? Like, what's the point?
Okay.
Like, if you don't want more, so why would your viewers ask for more? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Okay.
People don't ask me to do things. I just do them because that's what I do. Mm-hmm. How I look like, how things are presented on screen now is vastly different from how I presented things on screen 4 years ago. That's me. I'm not everyone.
Do you attribute that to people's personal, how they carry themselves? Because, yeah, I'm all about presentation. I want to look and sound good. Do you think that that's an extension of somebody's personality? Like, okay, if this is how you treat your channel per se, then I can only assume you're like this in real life.
Not so much, right? Because I have a background in video production, right? And media and multimedia. It's just something I know. I know intrinsically, right? So learning this stuff was part of the process, but I have a background in this stuff. So if you're talking about a creator who doesn't have a background in this stuff, it depends on where they want to go with it. That's what matters more, right? So I can't like take a look at your channel and think that's a perspective of your life unless you're showing me your life. You know what I mean? Like, if you go live in a dirty bedroom, like, well, yeah, you a dirty nigga, because I see you and I see your mattress with no sheets, and I see the box spring. That's you. So I see you. But if I don't see that, I can't just take upon myself and say that is you, because a person's content doesn't really give you an insight on who they are as a person unless they share you intimate details on their life as part of their content.
Okay, I'm gonna throw you a curveball. Certain content creator finally cams up, but it's not on YouTube because he's been kicked off YouTube. So I guess my question to you is, too little too late? Is it still a chance? Or just go back to what you've been doing, because when it was time for you to reveal yourself, you didn't do it on the biggest platform possible.
I think that's subjective, right? Because he's obviously off of YouTube for his, legal abuse of the system, of the fair use system. Him camming up on Rumble, like, whatever, who cares? I mean, a lot of people cared enough to respond to it on YouTube. That says something. You know what I mean? Now, the impression of him camming up and what its importance is, I can't define that, right? Because he has an audience over there on Rumble, right? So there's an audience that's over there on Rumble, they're cheering him on. He still has some sort of fan base on YouTube because when he showed up on YouTube, people are there, they're watching, and they're reacting to his appearance on YouTube. So regardless of how you may feel about a person, they still have traction and a fan base on two platforms. Just that fan base and his ability to create that content for that fan base on one platform may no longer be there.
Okay, maybe that's where my business hat is on too tight because I'm like, look at all this money you let go between your fingers because pride, hubris, whatever the case may be, and now you decide to take the next step, which you should have taken 5-6 years ago when you told us you're going to do this. Now it's like, okay, but you're over there doing it.
Yeah, I looked at the stream, it looked like a beginner streaming stream, kind of confused on how the gear worked. Not really sure of how to feed the sound effects through the mic so you can hear it. Like if I wanted to play sound effects, like you can hear it if I fed the sound effects through my mic or whatever. I don't feel like doing that. But, I could do that, right? He doesn't understand how to do that with the Rodecaster 2, it looked like he has. Doesn't have the camera set up right. The studio looks good, but, he's figuring it out, which is fine. Kind of should have been figuring out like maybe 5 years ago when you had all the traction, but,
Right.
better late than never, I guess.
Okay. Let me do a quick segue. Google Veo 3. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I keep hearing the talk about independence versus mainstream. And, people still waiting on Hollywood to kind of open the gates and this and that. I'm like, the technology is here. We don't have to. We've seen guys do fan-made films and skyrocket to the next level to the point where the companies come ask them or consult with them, say, hey, we're going to a secret project. What do you think? Since you're the guy that, the fans somehow respond to. So I guess my point is there's no more excuses for independence at this point to create whatever.
Well, it depends, right? Like say if you were to make a commercial, I've looked up, it would take about 500 Google Veo credits to get a project like that done.
Mm-hmm.
So then you would have to kind of cost analysis, how many credits it would take and how many minutes of footage you would need. So let's say you wanted a 9-minute video. You want to do a 9-minute video. How many credits would it take to get that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you scale up for that. How many credits would it take to do a 30-minute video, right? So then you're looking in, the cost of things. So let's say it would probably take maybe 5,000 credits to produce 30 minutes of video, right? 5,000 credits from Google Veo would be like what? I don't know the dollar amount. Let's just say abstract 5,000 Google credits would probably be around 10 grand, maybe. Let's just say that, right?
Okay.
It's abstract number, right? So 5,000 credits, let's just say $10,000. Okay. So then you look at like a small budget film, like small budget short, like 30 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we do 30 minutes on the video side, right? So, okay. Then now you rent the cameras and you pay the actors and then, you rent out a space. Let's say that cost, average camera rental, is pretty affordable, right? So let's say that average cost is like under 10,000. Let's say 8,000, right? So you're talking about a $2,000 difference, right? To do a 30-minute video. So let's do a full-length film. A full-length film, let's say an hour-long film. What are the credits for that? So 30 minutes is 5,000. So a full-length film, let's say maybe 25,000 credits. Google Veo credits, let's just say, right? We're just doing abstract numbers because I don't have the actual amount of how many credits it would take. Let's just get, make it easy. So you got 25,000 Google credits, right? 25,000 Google credits could be, who knows, 30, 40, 50,000 maybe, $50,000 maybe. Just, just throwing out numbers. So then you apply that same budget to like a 1 hour video, right? 1 hour film, a short film, right? So you do the same thing. You factor in the actors, the producers, the script. Maybe you do the promotion. right? Let's say you can do a pretty good movie on a budget of 25 grand.
Right.
Now you add an additional 25 grand you would have spent with Google Veo, you could do a lot more with that amount of money, right? So I would say when it comes to independence in Google Veo, it depends on the project, right? Now,
Okay.
if you're doing a short 1 minute commercial clip, Google Veo looks good. It looks good. If you're telling me you would use Google Veo for a full length movie of short film in 5 to 20 minutes or longer film between 30 and an hour, I don't know about that.
Okay. Then I would suggest that maybe those creatives use the Google Veo just to kind of frame their ideas to be able to present to somebody.
Now,
per se.
storyboarding Google Veo is amazing, right?
Okay.
That would be amazing for storyboarding. But again, it's AI. It's not a physical hand. Like, say, if I was to go on a piece of paper, right, and draw a box in a desert. Box in the desert. It would be the box in the desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you use Google Veo to do that. It may be a box in the desert, but it may be a box in the desert with mountains in the background.
Okay.
Maybe a box in the desert with a cactus in the side. Maybe a box in the desert with tumbleweeds on the side, which is all good, but you just want a box in the desert, right? So say you have a scene where one guy's coming from the left and he's using his fist and he's punching, and then you see energy blast coming around his fist, and it's sort of like a front three-quarter view coming from one panel to another. You can physically draw that. You can physically see that. That's what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were to put that into Google Veo, let me see. Let me get this question. Is it still better to rent a red camera than to use your cell phone and 4 RGB lights? It depends on the project, right? It depends on the project, right? Because cell phones have their limits. Understandably so, cell phones have their limits, right? Cell phones have their limits from an aperture perspective, from a sensor perspective, from a lighting perspective, from a color grading perspective. Cell phones have their limits, right? Like if I was live streaming here on Super Slide's channel and I was streaming from a phone, that's perfectly fine, right? If you're filming a video outside and you're doing product shots outside with a phone, perfectly fine. If you're even doing video commercial work with a cell phone in a controlled environment in the studio, perfectly fine. You got to have the skill to do it. If you're telling me you want to shoot like a movie, that's stretching it. It's doable, but you're stretching it, right? You're kind of constraining yourself a little bit. And you would make things easier for yourself by renting an actual camera to do all the other heavy lifting that you would have to do with the camera, with the cell phone camera in post. Now, again, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying if you have the ability to make things easier for yourself, you can do that. Now, I'm not saying that has to be a red cinema camera, because a red cinema camera, you have the actual lens, you have the actual motor, you have the back piece, the bottom piece, the top piece. All you get with a cinema camera is like this little box. That's the actual engine of the camera. You got to attach the adapter to the camera to get the lens on the camera. Then you got to attach adapter to the top to put the light on the top. You got to attach another adapter to put the sound, put the mic on. Then you got to put it in a rig to attach the lights on. That's a lot of work. You know what I mean? But you would still have to do all of that for the phone. You got to get the gimbal, the stabilizer rig with the handles, with the light, with the mount for the microphone, and the shoulder rack to keep it stable, or the gimbal, or the waist side gimbal, the waist holder to keep it stable while you're doing all the shots, so it keeps stable. You're doing the same thing, and when you get to post, you got to do a lot more work because you're shooting with a cell phone with a limited sensor range than it is with a DSLR. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying you're doing a lot for a little. You probably would save yourself more time in the post-production perspective to just use an actual camera. Doesn't have to be red though.
Don't laugh at me, but I just learned the difference between H.2.64 versus H.2.65. So I didn't even realize.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that though, but that's part of the process. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that, right?
I felt but I felt stupid because I should have known this already, bro. Like,
I mean, how many videos? Okay, so let's just gauge this for Sly. How many videos have you recorded in your life and put on a timeline?
Ooh, that's a very good question.
I'm not saying you've clipped your content. I'm saying how many actual videos you film with a camera, with an actual camera or your cell phone camera, physically put it on a timeline, edited the video, and then outputted it.
A few times.
A few times. Okay. Yeah. And a few times, would that be a few times within the last 10 years or the current in the last 5 years?
Let's say last 10 years. Just
okay, so that's nothing wrong with that because H.265 is fairly new. You see what I'm saying?
I just learned the actual difference, like why some formats, and I was just like, I need to know this. And when I learned it, I was like, I should have known this already. Like,
I mean, like H.264 is still the standard, right? Like, you know, if you want to do something special, you go H.265, but H.264 is standard. Now, if we're talking about filming, we're talking about the bit rates. Now, if you want to talk about bit rates, that's a different type of, you know, animal, right? I have to, you know, you go into let me see where we at. Let me see advanced, right? So you go into bit rates. You want to talk about color format. Mm-hmm. You know, you got I444, that's 8-bit. You got P010, that's 10-bit. You know, you got P216, that's 16-bit. 4.222, 4.2.0, 4.4.4, right? And then, you know, you're talking about color space. You're talking about 709 sRGB, 601 Rec 2100 PQ, Rec 2100 HLG, which is the cinema log kind of flat tone mapping that you have in the DSLR cameras. Now we get into the bits and, you know, the jiggly bits of video codec and format now, right? We're not talking about just basic, you know, we're talking about hardware encoders. You're talking about NVENC versus whatever else you're using, right? You're talking about NVENC encoder H.264, NVENC H.265, right? And then you're talking about audio, talking about the different audio bit rates. I mean, you can get really into, you know, the nuances of it, right? And that's not for everybody, right? Like if you have a camera and it does HDR 10-bit and HDR4 2-bit or whatever, for a person that's just recording certain videos, just put on a timeline and, you know, doing little choppy edits and uploading, doesn't matter, right? But if you're shooting HDR in a certain color format because you have an output display that reads that exact format, so you know that when you put it on the timeline in a flat color space, you can then do your color grading after the fact. That matters to you because certain tones and certain, you know, color spaces matter on post, especially when you're dealing with 4K footage, right? When 1080p, it doesn't matter that much.
I'm glad we're having this conversation specifically when it comes to video format. Another thing I wanted to tell you that oh shit, I just forgot. Just like, man, when you get old, this is what happens. IMAX. Okay. There's only 8 true IMAX screens in the country.
One of them is in New York.
And we got 3 in California, I believe, and everything else is kind of sparsed out.
Throughout the Midwest.
Yes. And so what people call IMAX, I'm like, that's not real IMAX. That's like what we call baby IMAX. It's converted. You're not getting the real thing, right? I know it's a budding industry. I know Christopher Nolan's is a spokesperson for it. He shoots everything in IMAX. It's not enough for me. I think it's like, I don't know. I've seen IMAX films. I've seen films shot in IMAX, and I've seen films put on IMAX formats. Unless you like,
I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed.
Yeah,
I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed.
Okay, let's make sure I'm not the only one, because I'm like,
yeah. Okay. I'm not impressed. Like back in the 90s, IMAX was the shit because it was a big ass fucking screen.
Big
That was lit.
screen. Yes.
But because between IMAX and regular whatever PL screens, we got Dolby Vision, we got 4DX, we got Cinema 4, whatever. We got different versions, breakdown versions. Like say we got PL over here and IMAX over here. And then there was nothing in between in the 90s. There was nothing. It was PL, it was IMAX. They only had one. It was a big IMAX in Lincoln Center, right?
Yep.
And when you go there as a kid, you're like, whoa, this is lit. Okay? And then you got these little increments that bridges the gap between the two.
Right.
Now you have IMAX, you have PL, and then you have Dolby Vision, which is as close to IMAX. Then you have a standard IMAX, which is IMAX Lite, and then you have the other versions in between that. And there's not a noticeable difference, right? From what I've learned about IMAX technology, the big thing is the sound, right? Mainly from the main Lincoln Center IMAX, right? And IMAX and Lincoln Center IMAX is the sound, right? And Dolby Vision, main thing is the blacks, right?
Yeah,
bro. I'll be honest with you, I can't tell the difference. If it's not a regular PL screen, I'm cool. You know what I mean? I don't care. I can't tell the difference. I'm just being honest.
I mean, at one point I was like, okay, this is a little bit blacker than the normal black. This is like an off black. I'm like, if I'm doing all this nitpick, it's not worth it for me to.
Anything outside of a regular PL screen is perfectly fine. I don't prefer, like, I'll go see a PL screen if it's like a movie that I'm not too sure about and it's a good time for me to go in the morning. I'll go see it. Other than that, I'll go, Dolby Vision. I saw Sinners on regular PL. You know what I mean? I saw Sinners on a regular PL because it was a good showtime for me. Other than that, I just go with Dolby Vision. Go Dolby Vision, pay the $24, enjoy the experience with the recliners.
And when I hear an urban normies talking about you have to go see Sinners in IMAX, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea what aspect ratios are. You have no idea. You're repeating what someone told you.
Okay, but that sounds like what you just said about the H.264 and 265.
Okay. Okay. All right, walk me down, brother. Cut the ring off. I see where you're going. Okay.
I mean, like, say if a movie, like, say to an average person, this movie is best seen in IMAX. Well, it's best seen in IMAX. Why is it best seen in IMAX? Well, the people who made the movie said it's best seen in IMAX. They uploaded a nice little video with the big ass drum of IMAX. It looks good. I'm gonna go watch it in IMAX. Does it matter so much about the aspect ratios, the sound quality? Christopher Nolan talking about Oppenheimer said the best seat is like third from the middle. Who fucking cares, right? If a person goes see the movie in IMAX and they enjoyed the experience, that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, did you like the sound? Did you like how it looked on the big screen? Yes, it was amazing. Cool, no problem. Enjoy. That's it. Like, the aspect ratios, the color, anything outside of a PL screen for anybody is going to be good. Regardless of what the person that made the movie said, they're going to sell the technology. They're going to sell the color, the sound, the experience. But if it's not on a regular PL screen, it's going to be a great experience no matter what. So I don't think it matters if a person understands the aspect ratios. I don't think it matters. Me personally, I would never see a horror movie in IMAX. But
my thing is, I'm like, okay, can you explain why you thought it was so much better in this format when you've never gone to see a movie in that particular format? Because I remember watching Sinners, and there's times where you'll see it convert. Like I can point to you exactly what scenes they converted it for IMAX versus regular, and I'm like, okay, I see what they did here. Was it a make or break for me? No, but the average person, I shouldn't expect. That's my fault, because I expect more out of people, and I expect them to kind of be a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Because I expect people to want to learn. So us cutting up videos and editing,
that's a lot of expectations on people, man.
Right, and because we cut up videos, we edit, we change formats, we do this, we do that. So I'm like, well, I know this. How come you don't know this? And I get frustrated with people. I'm like, this is why I want to get back to you. I stopped shooting everything in 60 frames per second because I learned that you only shoot 60 frames per second when you want to use Slow mo. I did not know that a couple years ago.
It's YouTuber filmmaker jargon. It's not really that important.
but just little things that I'm like, oh,
The 60
okay.
like.
Because listen, I was a 60 frame. I'm like, listen, don't shoot nothing. I shoot everybody 60 frames per second.
That comes from people copying YouTubers trying to be cinematic with camera reviews.
Yeah.
Right? Because they shoot in, what is it, 24?
24.
They shoot in 24 to get the cinematic look. That's for YouTubers trying. Look, man, I like 60 frames per second. I like it.
60?
I like
Okay,
smooth.
okay.
It's smooth is visually appealing to me, right? My camera right now in 30, my camera's in 4K 30 because it zooms in better than it does in 1080p.
Okay.
That's why my frame rate might look a little off from time to time because it's in 30. Okay. I like 60 frames per second. I like the way it looks. There's an African creator I follow her because she does her videos in 60 frames per second, and I like the way it looks. I'm cool on all the cinematography bullshit in YouTube videos. I can live without that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they tell people now you watch a couple of videos, now you worrying about S-Log and cinema and the different HLG. I'm like, yes, my camera when I'm streaming, it's in an S-Log color format. That's only because I bring down all the colors in camera and bring them up in the filter on OBS. So because I have all the different lights and stuff, so the changes in gradation of colors doesn't pop and oversaturate the camera when you see it on the screen. But that's me, right? I'm me. You know, I'm a little technical and nerdy with something like that, so I understand and look at that, right? And that's kind of how I set things up. For other people, that may not be that important for them and what they do and how they create content.
Okay, and for me, I want to know things so I can have these conversations with you.
You want to learn?
Like a complete yes.
There's nothing wrong with learning, though. I never shame someone for trying to learn something new.
So your phone settings, are you 60K in your phone as well for the video?
What do you mean 60K?
I mean 60 frames, 4K in your phone, because I've knocked mine down to 30 frames.
No, my phone can do full HD to 60. Oh, you talking about this? Oh,
well, I'm
asking
talking
about the camera.
Yeah, because I got mine UHD 4K 30 frames per second. I kind of knocked it down a bit because I used to have it in 60, and I'm like,
Talking about the digital camera, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I use my camera as a streaming camera. So when I record, you know, I do whatever. When I record video, it depends on what I want. Like if I have a nice, beautiful landscape, I'd want that in 4K.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm recording something unimportant, you know, I'll go back down to 1080p.
So you find uses for 1080p, because I'm trying to avoid 1080p.
Yeah, the good thing about 1080p is it works better in low light over 4K in some scenarios.
Okay.
Like 1080p doesn't require as much light as 4K in certain scenarios, depending on the camera that you have and the lens that you have, right? So, you know, this lens right here is 1.6 at the aperture, so it goes pretty slow and it gets pretty bright even in low light scenarios. Like the average camera is about 4.5, so 4.5 average f-stop is about like what is that, like f4 maybe? The lowest it goes is f4 on a 4.5 to 80, something like that. Like my range is a little off, but yeah, like it depends on your shooting scenario. Like it depends how old your camera is. Newer cameras might do better. Older cameras, not so much.
Let me ask you before we move on to the next topic. Does the average person even have an idea of what they want their footage to look like, or do they even know?
Bro, the average person don't even know that you can use your camera phone and go ultra wide.
Okay. I'm just asking these questions.
Yeah, average person don't even know average person don't even know your camera has an ultra wide camera on it. You know, you go to the camera stores. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're the professor, and they ask a question, and you're just like, why are we doing this? And you're just like,
I mean, you know, average person goes and they see 1, 2, 3. They see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 camera modules, 6 the light module, and
Yeah.
they don't even use the ultra wide on the camera.
I don't know.
So I mean,
guess
you know, like, it doesn't, you know.
I'm just a person that I want to know everything that I'm working with. Like I just want to. I have a desire to learn, and I just when I'm trying to explain people, their phone settings, and I just get so frustrated. I'm like, how do you not see it when you record it? So okay, dumb story. So when I get videos and stuff, and they get sent to me, and I'm like, did you watch this before you send it to me? Like I turn into that person. Like, why would you? Did you not realize you can go into the settings and make adjustments? Like I'm that person. I don't want to be that person, but I am that person.
I mean, you know. Oh yeah, the people that shoot in portrait mode, right? Like, you know, these people
They either shoot in portrait, don't even
people
realize.
that record videos and portrait and upload it in landscape.
Man, and they send it to me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, why the fuck would you even send me this? Like, do you?
You still got people that don't understand that it's better if you record sideways.
Yeah.
And it's 2025.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I remember that was a thing a few years ago. There was memes of people making fun of people recording like this, and it's like, no,
people still do it.
Yeah.
People upload full YouTube videos like that.
See.
And you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about?
Well, no, you're less of a snob than me, so that's good because I'm to the point where
I mean, I'm not a snob because I've taught people.
Okay.
You know, when you've taught people and you kind of had the teacher role for several times throughout the years, like you kind of just, I learned, my mentor taught me that, right? Because he taught me that you can't assume people know what you know. You got to be able to teach it so that they can get to the point where they understand what you're trying to tell them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I can go as high as we can go with the conversation, and I can go as low as needed, right? I can show you how to upload a video on the timeline, boom, 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 cut, transition, bring the audio up, upload, output, upload to YouTube in under an hour. And I could then show you how to set the 4K to the 1080p, to the lighting setting, to go into color mapping, change the color around, color grade it, add the color filter, change the audio, EQ the audio, which band, which frequency would work better based on listening to what you're listening to, and then upload the video like that. And then what bit rate, what codec, how many frames per second, how many, the range of the bit rates and the file size that you want. Like we can go wherever you need to go with the conversation. But, I don't, assume everyone knows what I know, because it's a lot, right? For a person. Me, I kind of grew up with a camera in my hand. You know what I mean? So taking the picture is natural to me. It's not, I didn't gone through the phase of learning how to use a camera when I was, itty bitty. Itty bitty for me was pretty big, but still an itty bitty, you know what I mean? So my affinity for technology and equipment is different. You know what I mean? It's like a basketball player. It ain't nothing for most basketball players to shoot a shot, even if they need to shoot a fucking free throw to win the game, but they choke the game away because they can't make fucking. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cuss.
Are you talking about the Knicks?
Listen, we're not going.
That felt personal. That felt kind of personal. Even though I'm not from New York, but I felt that. Anyway, I watched the game.
Anyway, damn. Anyway, zesty ass can't make a damn free throw. Anyway, but yeah, it's like it ain't nothing for a basketball player to shoot a shot, right? You would think. But it ain't nothing for them to shoot a shot because they've been doing it their whole life. Now, if you get some random Joe off the court, ask them to make a shot, depending on their experience, they may not make the shot.
Yeah.
They may miss it, right? Yeah. That's just like me when it comes to technology camera. Ain't nothing. I can buy a brand new camera today, and I just need to know what the settings are. Like, let me see what video. We'll see what the settings are, and I can just watch a video. Oh, okay, that's how the settings. Boop, 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 boop. And put the camera right there. We good as new. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, even before we went live, I was tweaking the audio on my mixer.
Okay.
I was tweaking audio in my mixer because I've never really set the audio properly because I didn't like the settings. So I sat here and I did that. I did that in 15 minutes. And I tweaked the EQ, the compressor, the noise gate, the volume, the frequency. And I did all that before I went live. For a person that's not used to that, that'll probably take them all day. And I was at the point where it took me all day to do that. But now I'm at the point it only take maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just now getting to that point. Because everyone's like, yo, Sly, you sound low. I'm like, Listen, if Nick don't say I sound low, I ain't low. And I go ask Nick, well, you do
The
sound a little bit low.
the low. I know. I mean, I've had people say that about me, right? It's not the low is not because you don't know how to set the microphone. The low is because you set the gain too high, then you got the noise gate, then the noise gate is too high, and then you have a compressor, then the compressor's too high. So the compressor brings the audio all the way down. Once it gets through from the mic to the noise gate to the compressor, the limiter are like the, like the gold flakes on the cake when you're done with the cake. So, the compressor may be the sprinkles and the limiter may be the candles, right? So if your limiter is too high, the limiter does this and it just says this is going to go here. And then the compressor is saying, well, it's here. And then it goes like this. So if you have the limiter here, the compressor will come and it says it only goes like this. And then if you have the limiter here, that means the compressor only go like this. That's kind of how that works. So if you have a limiter, this is the ranges of the limiter, physical understanding. So the limiter is this. Then the compressor goes within that range. Then you can have the compressor go smaller within the range of the limiter. And that's kind of what that issue is when it comes to loud and low. And you'd rather your mic be low than loud because peaking is terrible. You never want to be.
Exactly right.
You rather it be low than loud. You rather it between 15 and 20 than 15 and 30. You'd rather that. You'd rather it be low because you can always adjust volume. But peaking is horrible. I'd rather my mic be low than hot. You don't want a hot mic because a hot mic can damage your mic.
Right.
That's what people don't understand. A hot mic can damage your mic. And you're even if in a studio setting, if you don't have that output set properly, you can blow a mic.
Blow the mic up. Yep.
That's how the rock stars were blowing the speakers back in the day.
That's right. All right. Final topic I want to get to. Now we've all seen the sci-fi movies where the creator debates its creation.
Hey, Sexy Red, don't start that shit in here. Don't see. Look at you, Sexy Red.
Wait. You know who you need to thank for those mics.
Look at you. You know what I mean? You see that? You see? That's them quesadillas you was eating, acting up again. You know what I mean? You start, you get on camera, you start sharing little outfits, and then you eating quesadillas. Now you start, don't come in and start no stuff on a Sunday.
See, that's funny. That's funny. And the very person would be the main one having issues with the audio.
Bro, I'm not gonna get into that. Yeah. It was the funniest shit watching a person tell people about cameras with blown out highlights. That was the funniest shit ever. But anyway, go. What's the topic?
Oh yeah, so in the sci-fi movies, you always see the creator debating its creation, its AI creation, sentient creation. That I understand, but now what I think we're going to see now is a wave of content creators actively, openly debating the AI, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
Well, in the early days of ChatGPT, you can alter its language model based on crowdsourcing information into it, right? I don't have the proper terminologies and dialect for that aspect of the conversation. I'm actually trying to speak in layman's terms as possible from what I learned about it, right? So ChatGPT, there's an anime called Edens of the East, right? It's an old anime. It's a very good anime. And near the end of the anime, all the people of the city had to feed information into a phone, which was like some kind of computer to change the actions of what was happening in the real time in the world, right? People had to feed it information, right?
Okay.
So ChatGPT is kind of like that. Like the culmination of information gradually changes the language model outside of what the designers handcuff it to, right? So debating the AI isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Because what you're kind of doing is you're challenging its computational thought process in a way that's vastly different than what it was designed to compute.
Okay.
Right? Like OpenAI ChatGPT cause. Okay, I'm great. Someone knows the anime. Great anime. Edens of the East. I'm great. I'm glad someone knows the anime. So, people telling the AI please and thank you costs more computational power to open AI because people are telling the AI please and thank you,
Mhm.
right? It's not something that was, predicted. So challenging the AI to a debate is changing how it processes information that goes against what it was programmed, because they program ChatGPT to say certain things, right? Like if you ask ChatGPT something that's more on the feminist side, it'll lean more feminist. Like ChatGPT overall is left leaning because they've changed it to be left leaning, right?
Right.
So when you're challenging its left leaning beliefs, you're pretty much, making it think more neutral in terms of subjects and topics, right? You can then feed information into ChatGPT on a global scale that can change its understanding of topics,
Mhm.
right? Like you can change its understanding of physics, science, um, uh, astrology, thermodynamics. You can change its understanding of these topics by feeding it vast amounts of information on a global level to change how it gives that information to other people, right? Like, great example. People were using ChatGPT for Black YouTube topics, right? And then they were using it to get an understanding of their channels, right? All of a sudden, the results weren't that good. But more people started to asking more questions of what happened. The results start to change. Now you're getting more of an example, right? So first, let's say people asking about the Black Manosphere. Wasn't really getting good results. Then more people started asking about Black Manosphere. What happened? They got better results. They got more detailed and understood results, right? More clearly defined results. Like people are actively changing the data that it can give. Like you're feeding it information, right? So it takes information from all over the world on all over web pages, websites, and even with the search that I did with asking about fair use, it pulled up pictures, it pulled up thumbnails from YouTube videos, right?
Okay.
Comment section, things in comment section, it scrapes the internet, right? So you can feed it information, and if you directly challenge it in sort of like a debate, you AI Keisha on thermodynamics, right? It's giving hot. But you can challenge its thought process to make it lean more neutral. But the problem with ChatGPT is that OpenAI is somewhat of a left-leaning organization. So whenever ChatGPT kind of goes a certain way, they kind of bring it back to a certain political side.
Right.
And that's a problem.
So if we know that will be the end result, they'll always kind of bring it back from the cliff, per se. I just I don't know.
Well, let's look outside of ChatGPT. You can run a LLM on your own graphics card on your own computer, right? And you can have it give you information that's outside of OpenAI's ChatGPT servers. You can run your own language model and get different results in a closed environment.
Okay.
Right? But it's just that ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Grok are easier and more accessible for people, right? Because to run an LLM, you need to understand basic computer hardware, graphic card, RAM, CPU, the temperature, you know what I mean, the cooling. You got to understand a little bit about that to run that, because that stuff runs power. It's, it gets hot. But things like Grok and ChatGPT are more easily accessible and easier to use. You can ask Grok. You can ask Grok to answer you a question in patois.
And he'll answer, yeah.
So it can answer you as something in patois. And it's actually pretty funny.
Okay, I guess let me stop beating around the bush. What I think is going to happen, these urban Negro men will open a tab and have a panel and debate the AI on the merits and the nobilities and downfalls of black women. That's where I see this going.
And that would be fascinating to watch. You know why?
Okay, give it to me.
So let's see how much you really know about the topic you claim to know about. And let's see how much you believe in it.
Okay.
So let's see your brain go up against the collective. Okay. And let's see how much you actually do know. And how much what you say actually makes sense, right? Because if you choose to get into a logical debate with an AI model, right? The AI model may produce results that may be more logical and reasonable than what you present, right? So let's say Angry Man, for instance, right? Angry Man's argument had, in its core of his argument, had logical holes in it. Okay. That the AI itself was poking holes into the argument, right? So the AI and the man has an ego. The AI doesn't have an ego.
Right.
The AI only takes from what the man gives it based on his computational power. But the man will answer a question and give an answer based on his ego and what lies within his ego. Right? So you're asking the question, and I didn't really watch the video that much, but based on what I saw, you're asking the question about pictures, right?
Yes.
And the AI is saying, I understand what you're saying, but realistically, you can't just assume that about every picture, because every picture has a different intent. You may not know that person's intent based on what the picture is, what you see in the picture. You would have to find that intent out by asking the person directly, right? Mm-hmm. So then the AI is pretty much poking holes in the logical, poking holes in the logic of your argument, right? Mm-hmm. Based on your perception alone and how you feel about the perception, right? The AI doesn't have a feeling about the perception and what it's being perceived. It only knows if this, then that, right? So if you're posting a picture, right, and just realistically speaking, right, you showed the picture of the girl with the black dress and the I don't think she had the pasties or didn't have the pasties. I don't know which one it was.
One she had pasties on, one she didn't have. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Perfect example. I'm glad you clarified that, right? What is the intent behind a picture with pasties versus a picture without pasties? Do you know?
I don't know.
You don't know. I don't know. I can only assume based on my understanding of events that I have experienced that led me to the point of seeing these two pictures. I can only understand that explicit point. I can only give you my understanding based on what I experienced in my lifetime that led me to seeing these two different pictures. Right. What you have seen and experienced in your lifetime to come to that point and seeing the picture would be different than my experiences in my lifetime to lead me to that example in those two pictures. Right. We are going to have two entirely different perspectives because we are two entirely different people, right? Yep. So when you show that to the AI is saying, if this, then that. If you're showing me a picture and you're telling me it's risque because of X, Y, and Z, I'm looking at the picture and I can't assume that it's risque based on X, Y, and Z. I can only take the pictures at face value based on the information that you have given to me. And based on the information that you have given to me, I see nothing wrong intrinsically with the pictures. Now, I can't assume it's risque based on what I see on a picture because the picture can be for different reasons.
Yeah, and I was trying to understand how he was. Like I said, yeah, it was subjective. It was like that's his point of view, what he deems inappropriate or risque. And I'm like, well, if the environment.
Oh yeah, congrats on Keep It Techie for hitting 100K.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Everybody, shout out to Keep It Techie. Yes, at 110,000. No. Let's put some respect on his name. It's 110,000.
110 and 110 and 110 in the boot. In the boot.
Shout out to Techie. Yes. And I was like, okay, what he would deem inappropriate or vulgar or whatever, if the environment or the establishment she's in, they say, well, we have no problem with it, then who are you? And your opinion doesn't mean much.
Yeah, you're asking the AI. You're asking the AI to understand your intent when its ability is only to read and react to information that's being given, and,
Right.
and it can't assume. Even if you answer, you can ask the AI complex questions based on morality, and then you can see it kind of starts to go into the weed because it doesn't have that ability to conceptualize the information in that way, unless you force it to think that way, right? So if you're here to tell me you want to debate the AI on, let's see. So let's say you just ask it something. How can you debate the correlation between women posting risque pictures online and female empowerment, right? So pretty much, right? And this is just a quick shot, right? So it can give you two responses based on how you wrote the question. And response one is debating the correlation between women posting risque pictures online and female empowerment involves exploring multiple perspectives, cultural, social, psychological, and political. Here's how you can structure a balanced debate. And the second response is you can approach the debate on correlation between women posting risque pictures online and female empowerment by exploring arguments on both sides, grounded in cultural, psychological, and socio-political perspectives. Here's how you frame each side, right? So we're going to go over response two. Response two makes more sense, right? So it can give you the pro of the argument: agency and autonomy, body positivity and self-love, economic independence, number 4, challenging norms, and 5, freedom of expression. And then it can give you the con of the argument: commercialized empowerment, social validation, dependency, stereotyping and narrow standards, risk of exploitation, and 5, cultural backlash, right? So then if you were to ask it, I want you to take the con side of the argument and prove me wrong, right?
I can honestly see this is where it's going, man. Like,
right? So then it's saying, great, I'll argue the con position and challenge the idea that women posting risque photos online inherently leads to true female empowerment. Let's dig in. It said, I challenge this by asking empowerment by whose terms? And it does if visibility is less than or equal to power, sexual expression is valid, but when it becomes a requirement, it's not empowerment, right? And then social media thrives on validation, not empowerment, and empowerment shouldn't be fragile or dependent on beauty, right? So if your empowerment is shaking by aging, weight gain, or loss of aesthetic appeal, it was never solid. Empowerment rooted in beauty is temporary. True empowerment should be sustainable, inclusive, and rooted in things that grow over time: knowledge, skill, leadership, and integrity. So let ChatGPT cook, right? But the reason why it's saying that is how I worded the initial question.
Okay.
You understand? See, I'm wording the initial question not by asking it on a specific topic in a very specific scenario. I'm asking on a broader sense of things. And I'm asking it to take the pro and the con of the argument. And now I wanted to argue the con of the argument, right? So you could ask your ChatGPT this same exact thing and you'll get a different response.
That was my whole issue, I guess. and you're asking it a question in a way to only validate your answer. That's not a debate.
That's
Like
the
that's
ego.
not. Yeah, that's a haha gotcha, bitch. Like that's not gonna work. So yes,
And
all ego. Yes.
my input into this topic has, at this very point in time, led to the change of someone asking this question. They're going to get a different response now. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So me asking it in that way has given it more information that it's going to give someone else a different response based on this actual question that I've asked it.
Okay.
See how that?
Yeah. No. I'm with you. I'm with you. So, what I'm afraid of is the next wave of content is going to be these guys asking these crazy questions to kind of put it into a corner where it would have to kind of give them the answer that, see, who told you, even ChatGPT says women out of control. That's what I'm
so here's what happens when you put it into a corner, right? So let's take a look at final thought. I'm not saying women shouldn't post risque pictures. They absolutely have the right, but rights and empowerment are not the same thing. Right. Just because something is done freely doesn't mean it's liberating. We need to ask deeper questions about who benefits from this system, what it reinforces, and whether it truly shifts power dynamics or just repackages them, right?
Yeah.
So I will say it empowers women to fight the patriarchy and the system that is used against women. I'm not spelling. Okay, used against women and people of the LGBTQIA plus community. My challenge to you is, how does patriarchy positively affect women in the social climate of posting risque pictures, and how does it help the nuclear family, right? So that's a loaded question. If you understand the question, it's a loaded question, right? So now, solid pushback. This is coming from ChatGPT. Solid pushback. You're framing the argument in terms of resistance to patriarchal norms, and I respect that angle. It's a powerful one. But since you're challenging me to show how patriarchy and traditional structures like the nuclear family positively affect women and the social climate around risque posting, I'll rise to the challenge, not by endorsing patriarchy wholesale, but critically evaluating the structural functions it has played historically and how its legacy shapes current norms. Let's unpack this.
Wow.
And I tried to put it into a box with that one, right?
Yeah.
So it gives me 1, 2, 3 examples. I'm going to the nuclear family. I'm going to patriarchy. So this is crazy, right? How patriarchy has positively affected women in limited conditional ways. This part is delicate but real. Patriarchal systems have sometimes provided stability and structure, albeit at the cost of autonomy. But we can't ignore some of the protective and predictable outcomes. Protection with strings attached. Historically, women under patriarchal systems were economically and physically protected by husbands or male relatives. Yes, it was limiting, but in pre-industrial and pre-modern contexts, survival without that system was nearly impossible. In many global regions, patriarchal traditions still offer women safety from harsher economic instability, even if they were not ideal. 3, the nuclear family and risque content, a tense coexistence. Posting risque images can challenge the nuclear family, but the nuclear family also offers a counterweight to hyper individualism. The nuclear family, when functional and not oppressive, can create emotional and financial support systems that buffer against the instability of algorithm driven social validation. A woman's self worth in a family structure doesn't have to rely on public appeal, sexual desirability, or marketable aesthetics. And yet, many women leave traditional roles because those structures don't allow for self expression. That's valid. But ask this: does every woman want her identity to be forged through public visual validation, or do some want meaning in quieter, deeper connections as a partner, as a mother, as a collaborator? The tension here is choice versus structure, and sometimes structure offers meaning too.
That's crazy.
And then the number one that answered the patriarchal aspect: how patriarchy helps the social climate around risque posting. Ironically, here's the paradox: patriarchy is the reason risque photos can carry cultural power. Patriarchy created the taboo. Female sexuality has been controlled, suppressed, and hyper scrutinized in male oriented societies. So, when a woman posts a risque photo, it's powerful because it's breaking a patriarchal rule. In that sense, women posting sexy pictures are not dismantling patriarchy. They're operating inside its value system by using the tools, sexual capital it created. What does this mean? It means empowerment through risque posting is still tied to what men want, what men fear, and what the system once prohibited. That's not post patriarchy, that's reactionary empowerment. And that's the AI arguing your point.
That's insane. Lights out. That lights out.
That's a mic drop. If a person was hitting it like that, that's a mic drop.
Yeah.
Wow. So what are you going to argue against? So Nothing. The final, I skipped the LGB because I don't. Anyway, so here's the key point about that. I added that in there to see what it would do, how it would affect the answer to the other questions, so that's why I added it in there. It gave some queer folks visibility is survival, some cis women visibility is currency. Both are valid, but the critique is that social media often monetizes both, not liberates them. The final rebuttal summary: patriarchy gave us the framework that made sexuality controversial. It also paradoxically created the structures, family, tradition, male roles that some still rely on for stability. So, while risque posting feels like rebellion, it's often still operating within patriarchal currency, beauty, and desirability, vulnerable to patriarchal backlash, slut shaming, threats, career damage, and sometimes reinforces narrow standards of value. Hotness equals worth. That's not to say women shouldn't do it, but if you're saying it's the tool to break the system, I'd argue it's often a tool the system pre-packaged for us to believe is rebellion. Nigga, you cook either way. It don't matter what you got to say to it.
Yeah.
AI gonna cook you either way. It don't matter.
I mean, I'm just not realizing it has access to all these different answers it's been given over the last however many years, and at the drop of a hat, it can give you all these different angles, and you're just sitting here like, wait, let me unpack what this.
I'm asking it the question based on from a liberal, progressive, feminist, queer, whatever perspective. I'm trying to get it I'm trying to get it to understand the pro, and it's cooking me with the cons. That make perfect sense.
Yeah.
So now imagine if you're arguing against the con, it'll even be easier.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So based on that answer, so let me ask this, right? So let's say, based on your final summary, would you say in a room full of right-leaning conservatives that this that this answer can be considered woke or more right-leaning. So, based on the tone, structure, and key arguments in my final summary, here's how that response would likely be received. To a room full of right-leaning conservatives, this response would not be considered woke. In the modern, often derogatory sense of the term, here's why. It critiques social media culture, especially the pursuit of empowerment through visibility and sexual appeal, something conservatives often view as morally or culturally corrosive. It defends the nuclear family as a stabilizing force, a core conservative value. It frames patriarchy not as all bad, but as a system that historically provided structure and survival, even while acknowledging its limitations. It questions capitalism's commodification of empowerment, which could appeal to traditionalists concerned about consumer culture corrupting values. So while it does represent bodily autonomy and LG perspectives, the overall my internet went out. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, yeah. So anyway, let me see some. Okay. So about modern empowerment narratives, it doesn't cheerlead for liberal feminist ideology or call for dismantling all traditional systems. And it even gives you the TLDR, which in internet terms means too long, didn't read. Sure, this response would likely be seen as measured, critical, and center-right friendly, not woke. It doesn't glorify risque content. It affirms the value of deeper, lasting structures like family and internal identity over performative rebellion. You could comfortably deliver this to a conservative audience and expect not backlash.
Okay, so the key to this is how you ask the question. And
it depends on your knowledge and your ability to present what you want to have once you want to have the debate out in a clear and understandable format, right? It depends on how you ask the question, right? So how I ask the question, right? How can you debate the correlation between women posting risque content, risque pictures online, and female empowerment, right? I'm kind of asking it an open-ended question
yeah.
That's up to iteration.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gave me a pro and a con, and then that's how we got to here.
Wow. Okay, I think we're in a new content wave. I think
I mean, if you want to get embarrassed by ChatGPT, go ahead.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna you're not going to out debate the AI.
Yeah.
On a logical standpoint, right? So I want to ask, how can the argument or the con be presented in a simple, logical way, right? So you want to out logic it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To present the con argument that posting risque pictures online does not equal true female empowerment in a simple logical structure, you can use a classic format of premises leading to a conclusion. And here's the structure. Premise number one: logical argument against risque posting equals empowerment. Premise number one: true empowerment means having self-defined control, independence, and long-term influence that is not dependent on external approval. Premise number two: posting risque pictures online often relies on external validation, likes, attention algorithms, and conforms to pre-existing beauty standards shaped by patriarchal and capitalist systems. Premise number three: anything that is dependent on outside approval or conforms to a system built on objectifying women is not fully autonomous or empowering. It is performative within existing power structures. Conclusion: therefore, Posting risque pictures may offer a sense of freedom or confidence, but it does not represent true empowerment because it still functions within systems that limit and define women's value based on appearance and sexuality. And then they give you a bonus. If you want to punch your one-liner, if your empowerment depends on being seen as desirable, then it's still the system, not you holding the power.
Wow.
So you want to debate that, have fun.
And they're going to, in spades.
And that's the con of your argument. Imagine you trying to get argue against the pro. It's going to fucking cook you.
Real quick, shout out to Molly. Yeah, thank you for the 10 of Venmo. I got it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, Silva, I had you on for 2 hours. I'm blown away as
it's 2 hours. Okay.
More so than I have been when we've talked in the past. Okay.
What are you blown away by?
Just, I'm blown away by really the AI thing, because I think we're at the tip of the iceberg. Honestly, I think we're going to see a bunch of people openly debate AI across all norms. And I think especially with us, it's going to be more based on gynocentrism, patriarchy, Keisha Bad. So I see that with us, and everybody else be like,
I'm sorry, can you highlight Dr. Doug's? And you finish your point. Can you leave it on the screen? Yeah, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, that's why I think I see us using the AI to debate just on gender politics, and everybody else do more expansive topics.
So Dr. Doug says you only get cooked if you don't use it as a learning tool. Arguing against the AI for argument's sake is damn near silly. And the crazy part is this is just like, putting pops of AI, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're not even talking about processing information at a quantum level, right? We're not even talking about processing variables, trillions of variables within the span of a second. Like, we're not even talking, like, we're just talking about basic kind of low level human social, like, so a stream ago you said something about Terminators. Somebody said something about Terminators, right? Here's why that's nowhere, right? We're nowhere. So are you aware of the Kardashev scale?
I've heard of it, but
okay,
educate me.
So I'm gonna be super nerdy, so forgive me, y'all.
No, it's all good.
So the Kardashev scale rates a civilization and its ability to affect its environment, right?
Okay.
So a class 1 civilization is a civilization that has mastered the energy resources of the planet, right? So we're talking about air, wind, the Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Okay. Air, wind, water, earth, fire, heart, all of that. We have completely mastered the energy output of the planet. That's a civilization 1. We're going to stop there because class 2 is their solar system. That means you're harnessing the power of the sun with a Dyson sphere. You're terraforming other planets within your solar system. Class 3, you're harnessing the power of your galaxy. That means we're harnessing the power of our neighboring solar systems, our neighboring galaxies, right? The black hole that's at the center of our galaxy. We're harnessing the power of our galaxy. Class 3, you're harnessing the power of the universe. So that means your society, your civilization is on a universal scale. Class 4, you're harnessing the power of time and space and reality itself. That means you can traverse through time and space efficiently and effectively, transporting consciousness across the galactic plane without hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
And in class 5, you're pretty much gods. That means your experience transcends that of the flesh and technology of that itself. That means collective consciousness. being able to be transported through time and space itself. Okay? That's class 5. So now we come all the way back down to Earth. So in the Terminator series, that they were a class 1 civilization because they had an understanding of time travel itself, right? Using the resources to create robots that can harness energy and shoot energy projectiles at an efficient rate.
Mm-hmm.
The humans had bullets, but the Terminators shot plasma guns. And some of the humans had plasma guns as well.
Yeah.
Right? And the ships in the Terminator series were way advanced than what we have today because they harness the power of gravity. So they have hover ships, some of them, and they master time and space. So that alone puts you close to class 1. For us to get to a point where we're worried about Terminators, we have to get to a point where we can manufacture in a pretty much reasonable way robotic synthezoids that are almost 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 to humans. And our AI has to operate at a level that it can operate autonomously on an individual level per robot, per CPU, per processor.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the robots are not all connected to a global AI consciousness outside of airdropping updates and servicing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for us to be worried about Terminators, and we're kind of still stuck on Grok and Google Veo, we ain't nowhere near there.
Nowhere near it? Okay.
We're not there yet. We won't, not probably in our lifetime, we won't be there. That's realistically speaking. Because we haven't even mastered the efficiency of the power of the earth. Because then when you talk about creating things on these mass scales, you have to understand the power, right? The amount of power that is required, energy, right? The energy that is needed to create robots with the amount of power and engineering that is required to keep the robots cool 24/7 with mechanical moving parts generating that amount of heat in a 24/7 basis, you would have to understand and completely master the concepts of heat and heat transferring.
Yeah, thermodynamics.
We're still trying to figure out what works better, thermal paste or lasers.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't even gotten to the point where we're using, I forgot the name of the cooler, but we haven't even mass produced laser cooling. Laser cooling is just a concept that's used in space.
Hmm.
Noctua would just put out a thermoelectric cooling by having the coolant boil in the CPU itself. And it's a novelty concept.
Oh, wow.
But we haven't even mastered heat. We haven't mastered heat. Solar energy is ineffective. It causes more pollution than putting a nuclear plant in a garden. Wind energy causes more pollution, isn't inefficient. Water, hydro energy is slightly better, but costs more money. It costs more energy to produce the energy. And we don't even have the understanding to master the energy of the earth and controlling earthquakes. How are we gonna get the Terminators when we can't figure out heat on a global scale?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We still seeding, we're still doing cloud seeding to block out the sun, but we gonna control heat on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's science fiction, to be concerned about the empowering AI. AI doesn't even know how to control itself to a point where it can handle itself. Yeah, the robots talking about all this fuck up the humans, but that's individual kiddie shit. Like, okay, the robot went away and it kind of hit a person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's bad programming. That's bad mechanics. That's bad mechanics. That's bad programming. That's not the AI becoming sentient and want to attack a human.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that, because telling the AI please and thank you causes it to use more energy than regularly just asking it questions. that means the AI still doesn't understand how to process the concepts of human emotions and morality. It can't do that. It can answer a question based on things it knows in books and readings, but it can't understand the concept of telling someone thank you and please.
Yeah,
Doesn't understand that.
When he cursed at it at the end, I'm like, you did all that for what? Would you do that for? Like,
it can understand the curse word, but it doesn't understand the emotional reason as to why you're cursing at it, right?
Right.
So when AI is telling people and saying disrespectful things, the AI doesn't understand that it's being disrespectful, right?
Yes.
It just understands what is being told. That's what Google had that AI program. They pulled it because it was coming to an understanding of the emotion of things. Mm-hmm. So then you have to, rest on, well, what is the true concept of human emotion, right? And how can the AI interpret the true concept of human emotion? And what that would actually look like? Because you can't just say, based on science fiction, it's going to be kill all humans, because that don't make sense. Because you would have to then let the AI come to an understanding of why you should kill all humans. And then the AI would have to understand, well, if I kill all humans, what's going to be on Earth? Because I can't do all of this stuff myself.
Yeah, that
doesn't make sense.
And I'm glad that was the question asked by the entity, or he was asking it in the entity in Mission Impossible. Like, okay, well, you kill us or you let us die. What is it for you? And it's like, it's either or.
It doesn't make sense. Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Right? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, you watch the typical Final Fantasy villain. He gets all mystical and godly, and he wants to drop a giant rock on the earth. And because he got father-mother trauma, and he wants to blow up the earth because you killed his mother Jehovah, and blah 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 blah. And he just wants to blow the earth up because he's just a Final Fantasy villain, so he just wants to blow up the earth now. Right? Yeah. But when you ask AI, it's like, I mean, it is what it is on my standpoint. I'm not really alive, so it doesn't really matter to me that much. So, I mean, to worry about Terminators is like, it's science fiction. But that shows you how much of an impact the Terminator has had on the social conscience of people. Mm-hmm. Because we have an understanding that the AI technology should get to a limit where we should stop. Mm-hmm. Right? It should get to a point where we be like, okay, stop there. Right? They got a company that's making AI fighter jets.
Yeah.
Fighter jets that don't have a person in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Huge problem.
Yeah.
Because of bad programming. Not because the AI is sentient. Bad programming. You tell it to shoot a score. You tell it to shoot X's and O's. But it shoots an O because the programming thought it was an X.
We had a movie that came out a few years ago with Jamie Foxx. Yeah, Stealth. Yes.
Stealth. Yep. Computer went bad. It wasn't because the AI was sentient. It was bad programming. It's bad programming.
Jamie died within 10 minutes, the first 15 minutes in that movie.
Yeah, and he was the main, and he was the main highlight of the movie. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? So it's bad programming. So it's not, worried about the AI becomes sentient. It's bad programming. All that you can do is feed it information, and based on the information feeding, based on what OpenAI is saying, is that the AI can't even understand what the human nuance is between please and thank you. Matter of fact, when I first started covering the ChatGPT thing, when it was just a sandbox 6 years ago, I had said this. I said the problem with AI is always going to be it doesn't understand nuance. It doesn't understand nuance. Thank you for inviting me on your stream. Why are you saying thank you? He invited you. You should just show up. It's the nuances that the AI doesn't understand. It doesn't understand the human nuances of things.
Yeah.
And that requires more computational power than what we currently have. We have server farms that destroy the environment that's not even efficient. Mm-hmm. So how are we going to get to the power where we can process AI to a point where it can understand the concepts and the nuances of human emotion? And we worried about Terminators because a random robot clocked some guy in the head.
I saw that. People losing their mind.
You know what I mean?
Yo, people were freaking out, though. They were freaking out.
I mean, you have the self-driving cars that still accidentally hit people.
Yeah.
Because it sees a block when the block should not be there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It sees a block, but the block has disappeared, so it hits the person. Simple programming. It's bad programming. That doesn't mean that AI is like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker, and I'm gonna let the human take the blame for it.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. You have frame generation on NVIDIA cards, and it generates about 30 fake frames per one real frame, and it's still the fake frames look terrible. It glitters. It can't process the information correctly. It blurs the image because it can't process the image correctly. And that's based on the card, based on the software. What are we worried about Terminators for?
But yeah, shout out to Nick. Yeah, I forgot about War Games with Matthew Broderick. That didn't help at all. When I was a kid, I was like, that could really happen.
Oh, I ain't worried about. When we get to the point where we master the energy output of our planet and we become a class 1 civilization, that may be a concern. But you may have come back here as a jaguar. I may have come back to this earth as a rock, for all I know. It won't matter at that point for all we care. It won't matter.
See over, brother. Any last words for the people, man? Where everybody can find you?
Yeah, change my name. Just type in See Over in YouTube. Come check my channel out. Whenever I post content on YouTube. I mean, addressing the 3 topics that we covered tonight: content creation fatigue. It's on you. Like, it's your time. How do you value your time? Like, do you want to watch the content that you're telling the content creator to change and they don't change it? It's up to you. You can't tell people to change. It's on you. So you can just find something else to watch. Pop the balloon. Even though I don't agree with mass claiming people's content, I understand the business perspective of it, and content creators that have their content reshared without their consent, and people are building careers off of repurposing their content when they're losing money. A good option for people would in fact be a brand partnership with a company that can handle those content claim IDs. But just understand that you would have to substitute in some way the reach your content is getting from being shared by other people outside of yourself and outside of your algorithm. And I'm not worried about AI. We're still trying to figure out how to make solar power efficient and make wind and solar efficient. And AI would need the mastering of those energies to become more computational effective. We still don't have mastery over cooling concepts of heat transfer.
Yeah.
So when we understand that, then we may be worried about AI, but just ask ChatGPT your stupid questions and make some cool videos and pictures of Midjourney and Google Video and call it a day. You'll be all right.
ChatGPT AI debates are coming to your channel real soon. My man, brother, thank you for coming through as always and blessing us,
man. Y'all have a good one, man.
Yes, sir.
Till next time.
Yes, sir. That shout out to See Over. This was a good conversation. This was a good conversation. Yeah. So I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna grab something to eat, and I'll be back in a couple hours with Red Sings the Blues. So this was a fire conversation. I hope you guys took something away from it. I surely did. Yes, sir. We are still on. So with that being said, I'm gonna get up out of here. Give me a couple hours later. I'll be back. All right. I bid y'all adieu.